Hello guys, and welcome to Tesla's League of Legends Daily number 5 with your host, Tesla Chew. Today, we will be talking a little bit about AD champions. When you go to play a match, one of the most important things you need to know is if you're going to play a ranged AD champion, or also known as a carry, what is a good champion to choose and why? These will completely depend, and I do mean completely depend, upon what it is that you are going up against. So with that, let us dive into today's daily. First off, we will be talking about the Frost Archer, Ashe. She is an amazing champion for those of you who don't know. The lore about Ashe is absolutely amazing. She is a ruler over her own people, that sort of thing, and she is also a queen, or considered a queen, which is why she's a ruler. She's also married to Tryndamere. Little side note for you guys there. Alright, so with that being said, let's go on to the first little bit about Ashe. Pros. She's one of the strongest champions at level 1 with her built-in auto crit and damage from her W spell. Farms easily with her W and her passive extra gold from her E. She can scout the map with her Hawkshot, which is her E. She's got one of the best initiations in the game that can also be used to help out other lanes by globally, using her ultimate. Alright, she's got a great burst at level 1 if you can get volley and an auto attack with crit on it, off on a user. So those are some pros for Ashe. But with every good champion, there is always an upside and a downside. So let's go ahead and talk now about the cons for this Frost Archer. Alright, so cons. Low movement speed and mobility. She's got no escape. There are other AD champions out there that have a better escape or mobility, unlike Ashe. Her base stats are very, very low. This tends to make her very, very squishy. She has what is referred to as a steroid, or I should say a lack thereof one. She has no ability or anything that helps increase her damage output or her attack speed. The most she has is her passive, which is the crit over time, and that goes up the longer she stays out of fighting. Last hitting with Ashe can be a little more tricky than last hitting with another champion. So let's go on and talk about who Ashe can counter. Ashe can counter champions like Taric, Fiddlesticks, Miss Fortune, and Kennen. Now the reason why, Taric can heal, but he can only heal so much. Those crits, when you build up on them, can do a lot of damage. Now obviously this is all situational. Depending upon the situation you're in, Ashe can get dominated by any of these champions. She can be very strong or very weak. It all comes down to the situation and what exactly is going on. Now, who exactly counters Ashe? Caitlyn, Graves, Corky, and Sivir. Caitlyn has the second longest range for an attack damage carry. Her range is only matched and outdone by Tristana. Graves has amazing mobility, but the mobility Graves has is nothing compared to that of Corky's. Sivir's attack speed when built with damage, once again Sivir has that steroid we were talking about earlier. She can just wreck a champion like Ashe. Catch up to them, close the gap, so on and so forth. So those are champions that can counter Ashe. So let's go ahead and quickly glance over that again. So, these are champions that Ashe can counter: Taric, Fiddlesticks, Miss Fortune, Kennen, and then champions that counter Ashe. Caitlyn, Graves, Corky, and Sivir. However, let's move on to our next champion, Caitlyn. Caitlyn, an amazing champion in my opinion. I love Caitlyn. I don't know about you guys. But she is the Sheriff of Piltover. Now, as lore has it, she has always had a mind to want to figure things out and wanted to deal with the crime, that sort of thing. Her parents weren't happy with it. And so what happened is the mother wanted to protect Caitlyn, and the only way she knew how was by outfitting her with all of her needs. That sort of thing. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at Caitlyn's pros. One of the longest attack ranges, as we already said. Traps can help protect you in lane. That's true, they can. The net can slow or help you escape. Caitlyn has the ability to push a lane quickly. She can poke in and out of brush for headshots. She has that passive. And for those of you who don't know her passive is called Headshot. Every few basic attacks, Caitlyn will fire a headshot, dealing 150% damage to a champion, or 250 damage to a minion. And this is like every 8. And what happens is that being in a bush, it charges up 2 of those headshots. But let's move on. Cons. Not as much sustained damage as other AD carries. While she's in the top 3 for her sustain, as in regards to her constant steady damage or ability to do such, she's not the best one out there. There are still others that outdo her. No steroid skill or ability that makes her attacks do more or increase her attack damage or her attack speed. Once again, it all comes down to her passive. She is more of a burst AD champion instead of a steady AD champion. So she can burst down, but once her skills are on cooldown, that's kind of it. You have to wait a couple of seconds before you can dish out that damage again, whereas other champions can do damage over time, so on and so forth. Oh, it does say bust. Oops, I meant to put burst. My goodness, that shows you guys how hard I was working on it. I was, but obviously I got a bit distracted. Okay, so champions that Caitlyn can do well against: Ashe, Mordekaiser, and Ryze. Now, she does great against Ashe because she's got the mobility, so even with Ashe's slow, she can just net away, go into a brush, headshot, and then just continue doing that damage to Ashe. Mordekaiser has a shield, but when Caitlyn is built with attack speed and attack damage, she will just annihilate him. And Ryze, while he might have his CC and he can do a lot of damage, Caitlyn has the potential to do more than he does. But, of course, once again, we have the champions that can counter her. And in regards to that, you have Tristana, Sivir, and Ezreal. Tristana's range is the only AD champion that has the longer range than Caitlyn. Sivir, well, Sivir's spell shield can counter pretty much a lot of people, and that remains true for Caitlyn. Caitlyn's traps will only give mana back to Sivir when Sivir uses her spell shield. Sivir can spell shield, and Caitlyn's ultimate is wasted. So Sivir definitely a huge counter to Caitlyn. Tristana, another good counter. Ezreal, and this one can be a huge counter because of his mobility and his poke ability, but what is kind of disturbing about Ezreal's is if he misses, if he doesn't land those skills, he's useless. So that's a situational. Once again, these are all situational, guys, so it could always change. However, let's go ahead and move on to the next champion, which is Corky. Alright, so for those of you who don't know, sorry about the dogs, guys. For those of you who don't know, Corky is the daring bombarder. He is, of course, a Yordle. So, Corky is renowned for the screaming yip snakes, for remaining cool under fire, and exhibiting bravery to the point of madness. Before the league, he served several tours of duty, often volunteering for missions that would take him behind enemy lines, either gathering intelligence or delivering messages through hot zones. He thrived on danger and enjoyed nothing more than a good dogfight in the morning. So, that's just a little bit of his lore for you guys. Let us continue on though, with more about Corky. So, pros. Large amount of burst damage. His ultimate has a very long range. Has a long range of escapability. Can shred armor off opponents. And his passive gives true damage. This makes Corky formidable in lane. He can be very, very annoying to face. But once again, this will all come down to, can those shots be landed or not? Alright. So let's move on to the cons. Once again, every champion has their pros and every champion has their cons. The cons. Corky has the ability to run out of mana quickly. His ultimate has a restricted amount that must regenerate over time. He does not have a steroid, as we were talking earlier. He doesn't have a skill that helps increase his damage or his attack speed. DPS is not guaranteed with Corky due to all of the skill shots. So there's something for you guys to know. However, let's go ahead and talk about who Corky can counter. Corky can counter Caitlyn, Malzahar, Soraka, and Taric. But here's the tricky part. When we go to talk about who counters him, there's no direct counter for Corky except by gap closers and crowd control champions. But with the crowd control champions, it comes a bit more into later game, such as Annie. Now Malzahar early game can be dominated by Corky, or Corky into middle late game will get dominated by Malzahar. Aurelia, a great gap closer, she's able to do so much, and Nocturne, of course, will be able to do something like catch a Corky. However, let us move on to the final champion of tonight's discussion, and that is Ezreal. I'm really sorry for how short tonight's daily is, but it took quite a bit to put all of these slides together to try and make it look good for you guys. So this is Ezreal, the Prodigal Explorer. He is a ranged AD carry. Ezreal is very unique. He has the ability to be built in AD or AP. However, most people build him AD. Ezreal was born with the gift of magic flowing through his veins. Ezreal, however, was also born with a much stronger sense of wanderlust. Put into school to become a skilled tech mutageous. I can't even say that word. Okay, guys. You know what? You want to know the lore from? Go read it. I'm not going to read part of it, after all. I was going to, but then it became too technical for my liking. However, let's go ahead and let's talk about the pros. Ezreal's pros. Mobile AD carry. He's a mobile AD carry, guys. Mobile AD carry. Reading the chat and trying to talk to you guys about this at the same time. Not the wisest idea. Anyhow, so he's a mobile AD carry. He has a long range of poke. He has a global ultimate and good AoE. His passive gives attack speed, so he does have that steroid. That steroid is amazing. Alright, so once again, let's move on to the cons. Consider him to be similar to Corky, but much weaker. Alright, so once again, with Ezreal, it's skill shots. If you don't land them, you're useless. He falls off pretty hard later into the game compared to many other AD champions. He also has mana problems. So let's move on to the last bit here. Who he counters. He can counter Caitlyn and Graves. However, he is countered by burst champions such as Kassadin, Brand, Akali, and even Tryndamere. Now, why Tryndamere? Tryndamere can dish out a lot of damage, and if he gets that exhaust on, if he's able to slow him, depending upon the situation, Tryndamere can dish out enough damage. Ezreal can't get away, so on and so forth. Alright guys, I am really sorry that tonight's daily has been so short. However, it did take quite a bit to put these all together to try and, you know, work on it all for you guys. And tomorrow night I will continue on with at least another 4 champions, and those 4 champions will be Graves, Kog'Maw, Misfortune, and Sivir, minimum. For the list of AD champions, that will be covered in total in regards to breaking it down, as you guys just saw tonight, breaking down the counters, such as who they counter and who counters them, the pros and the cons. Well, that full list contains Ashe, Caitlyn, Corky, Ezreal, Graves, Kog'Maw, Misfortune, Sivir, Teemo, Tristana, Twitch, Urgot, and Vayne. So if you guys have any suggestions for a daily you guys want, something you guys would like me to discuss for the daily, if you are watching it live, throw it in the chat. If you are watching it on YouTube, put a comment on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. And I will be back tomorrow night. Again, sorry for the very short daily.